Walker and Daniel Weyman.
Thank you.
Yes, I.
Next.
Okay.
Let's go with the cycle.
Oh my God. Okay. So, so I have a question for you because I'm a Broadway nerd.
All right.
So I've seen you on Broadway. I think you're a great singer, but every time they mention singers, no one mentions your name on this cast. So I have a question. Did you just not sing at karaoke night that we know existed?
Let's talk about karaoke night, Ben.
Well, let's do it then. I've got that. I have an answer is twofold. It's just the first season, and yeah, we're going to karaoke tonight. So.
Okay, good.
I don't think I've heard your voice much singing wise, though. So I've got to, yeah.
You live under a rock? What do you mean?
I must.
You're missing out.
No, in the show, I
Andrew
mean.
Jackson's great.
Yeah.
Highly recommend.
So I have a fun question. I know a lot of people have been comparing Rings of Power and House of the Dragon, fantasy shows airing the same proximity. Would your character make it onto the Iron Throne?
100%. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have all the dragons. I mean, I'm biased, but yeah.
I feel like I would. It's really funny because I actually keep forgetting this, but not to plug another project, but I have another film coming out, awkward, called The People We Hated at the Wedding, and the amazing, lovely actor who's playing my husband is John McMillan, who is currently on House of the Dragon. He is the character's name is escaping me, but he's the son of the snake. The sea snake.
Oh, is he Lenore?
He's the adult.
Yeah, he's Lenore.
Yeah, but so it's funny because we had this joke. We're like, oh, this is kind of this funny crossover that we're married in this wedding comedy. But
See, they can all get along.
yeah, there's a lot of love to be had. So
Well, that's like the that party where the two PR teams were trying to get the two casts together at San Diego Comic Con, and they were sort of really wanting this. Like, oh, we're gonna have a face-off with
the Jets and the Sharks.
And then all the cast got together. Most of everybody knew each other. And
Yeah,
just like,
hey,
It's just lovely.
You're great on the show.
Yeah.
Really mad with
You're in a wig too.
Yeah.
I've been called worse.
Your character is really tiptoeing the line between light and dark, and it's painted pretty close to almost like he's an infant in a way,
Right.
not really being able to speaking and whatnot. Is that more fun to play than having just dialogue all the time?
It has been really fun to play, yeah. And I haven't been given that opportunity before, and actually it's probably opened up a whole side of like the how I act that's made me think, well, actually, where does that come from, or what's my impetus for? Was that me? What's my impetus for that? So I've really enjoyed doing it, and it's when I watch it back, I don't mind that there's no dialogue. I feel like he is communicating. I feel like he is communicating, and he might not be speaking, but I feel something's coming off him, and I suppose that's all I can hope for. That people, I'm working with Markella, who plays Nori. I felt from the very beginning that there was a connection there where we could communicate without text.
Yeah, there's a very cool connection.
Yeah.
Your character saw the fall of Numenor, like in around episode 4, and it fell now. Can you talk about carrying that weight as a character and going forth? Will she try to do anything differently than she did in the past?
Well, I think one of the things that I find really interesting, just in terms of my point of entry with the story, is these visions that she's seeing. Is this inevitable, or can she do something to alter the course of this moment? And I thought a lot about how isolating it is for her as a queen. There aren't that many people that she can essentially discuss this with, so it's a very lonely proposition to be carrying this information around. But one of my favorite things that I feel like J.D. and Patrick and the writers sort of creatively engineered was that meeting between Galadriel and Miriel, because I think there is that sense of like we are carrying burdens, and we care deeply about trying to figure out what is the right thing to do, and how do we do it. and as somebody who's part of this production, I am very curious to see sort of. I mean, again, it's a funny thing where people know that Numenor falls, but there are a lot of ways in which we can sort of tell the story in getting there. So I'm excited to see where the story goes. But yeah, you know, that old yarn about heavy is the head that wears the crown. I mean, that's true for sure.
Tolkien is very like Shakespearean when you kind of look at it cinematically, and so I wanted to know what has been kind of the joy of getting to exist in that use of language, but also the struggles of. I mean, there's Elvish. It's like a whole new language you have to also learn and stuff like that.
I mean, it's obviously a struggle to learn a new language, but I've only found it pleasant. I mean, Tolkien was a linguist. He basically wrote a language and then built some stories around it, if you look at it from that perspective. But it is Shakespearean, that how each realm speaks is another illustration of who they are fundamentally. And it's just a testament to the detail and love that he put into his stories. And it's also the question of when you can't communicate through speaking, then you sing. What is the next thing? That what they're experiencing, casual English just doesn't cut it. The way they're functioning is much higher in this story. So I think he understood that, and I think our showrunners understand that, and we hope to see it when you watch it.
I was going to say too, there's language and the dialogue, and always trying to be as Tolkienian as possible. The words are definitely chosen with thought and care, especially differentiating between the different groups. But there's also dialect, and I know for me and for you, and for you-ish, Leif McPherson, who was our dialect coach, dialect was one of the points of entry for me where, I knew I couldn't sound as I do. And I knew that, sort of the work I would have to do in terms of sounding, not even about sounding commanding, but you just know that you're going to have a different sound to your voice that also is part of your character and part of who you are. And even the lines sort of have to be spoken in a certain manner. Like, sometimes when I'm reading them in my American accent, if I'm just going through my own lines, it doesn't work. It doesn't have that Tolkienian flair. So, there's definitely a lot of thought and effort, even just to the sound of this dialogue, the sound of these lines, and really, again, honoring the spirit of Tolkien's stories.
Is there anything about your character that has surprised you, and maybe the physicality of it, or like when you were reading it, did it change as you started actually?
I think most of that happened before I got the part. So from the very first tape that I did, through conversation with JD and Patrick about who the character was, where they wanted to go, that was where all that really filtered in, and that was when I felt the character really changed. Then when I got to sort of costume and hair and makeup settings, I felt like I was on solid ground. And then they just kept writing stuff that seemed symbiotic. It seemed like their vision of it matched what my vision was. So once we'd done all the prep stuff, it was. I think we were really on the same track. Yeah. Okay. Lovely to meet you all. Thank you. See you again. See you soon.
Thank you so much. I'm going to give
any of your phones. Yeah.
not pick it out myself.